All righty. Without further ado, let's get going here. So what I'm going to look to cover today is really just the basics. You need to know what independent and dependent variables are and levels of measurement. Why? Because in the tool, any tool, you're going to need to know what your outcome variable is, and some of those tests only accept certain levels of measurement of your variables. So you need to know what that is. We'll show you how to log in into Intellectus. How do you set up data? How do you conduct the different analyses? And I'll go through several of these. How do you download? And then I will squeeze in the summary of the results and then a final Q&A. As we go through this, you can ask questions at any point in the Q&A section. And again, Melissa, Ashley, or Samantha will be triaging those as need be. All right, so let's get to levels of measurement. For all of you that know levels of measurement, I'm sorry to bore you, but we need to kind of go through this very quickly just to make sure everyone's kind of on the same page with us. All right, so basically this data, quantitative data, has 3 levels of measurement: nominal, ordinal, and scale. Nominal, Latin for name only. It's just a name, okay? Like a red block, blue block, green block. There's no distinction, there's no hierarchy, okay? They're just names of things, all right? Ordinal has an order to things, okay? Not necessarily the same interval in between them or the same distance between them, but ordered. I can have an 8-ounce Coca-Cola, 12-ounce Coca-Cola, a big gulp of 32 ounces or whatever they do. So there is certainly an order, but they're not equally, in this case, equal volumes, okay? Or in a horse race, first horse comes in, second horse comes in a nose later, the third horse comes in, 3 lengths later. Again, there's an order, but they're not equally spaced. They have names, they have order, but not equally spaced or equal volumes and things of that sort, okay? Continuous level variables, which is what a lot of variables are, have kind of all 3 things, right? They have a name, okay? 1 degree, 2 degree, 3 degree. They have an order, and then they're equally spaced. So, and continuous, I use that kind of generically. They call it scale, they call it interval, they call it ratio. So there's lots of kind of names for this. With regard to the statistical analysis, it's all one and the same. And these icons are indicative of those levels, okay? So the Venn diagram, the kind of bar chart, and the ruler are represented inside the tool in the plots, in the data management, in the analyses. So you'll see these things around the variables to indicate what variables are accepted there. We also need to know about independent and dependent variables and covariates. Roughly speaking, the independent variable are things that the experimenter can control or does control, and the outcome variable or the dependent variable are things that the respondent's responsible for, or the response from the or dependent upon the person or participant. I'll just give the example of I want to see who runs faster in a 5K, men or women. The outcome variable is the time to run the 5K, dependent upon the runner. The independent variable that me, the researcher, selects is male or female. I could have said, who runs faster in a 5K, older or younger folks, okay? And I get to decide, okay? Younger is 40 or under, older is 41 or above, and so forth. So in this example here, I just said, the IV, I think is going to be fruit in this case, different types of fruit. Okay, the DV is maybe the sugar content or the energy level or fructose that's in there. All right. I didn't go into covariate, but those are things that we want to kind of control for or neutralize the effect for. Most of the time, in most of the studies, in this realm, we're dealing with independent and dependent variables. So that takes you a long way to know the three levels of measurement, A, and to know which is your outcome variable and which is your independent variable. We need to know those. All right. So now's our time to get logged in. All right. So you can use this this URL. Okay. Again, if you have any trouble at all, you just let one of the staff know, and they will ably get you going there. Okay. In the meantime, while you're getting logged in, let me just tell you that you are not alone. There are, in many decades of this, folks have the same kind of problems. What kind of problems? They don't know what test to conduct. Okay. They understand their research question, okay, or form of it, but they don't know what test goes with that. All right. They don't know how to execute that test, right? Once they know I'm doing a t-test or a Wilcoxon, how do I do that? Where do I go? What are the assumptions of it? And then they don't know how to interpret the output. Okay, I have this t value. Okay, I have this p value. What do these things indicate? Intellectus was a response to those problems. Okay, we have a decision tree that helps figure out what test to use. We have a simple way of selecting the test that preloads the assumptions so you can execute on that test very readily. And then we have interpreted output in plain English prose that says, what do these assumptions and what does this output actually indicate? So, no, you are not alone there. So we'll talk about loading up data. I guess this slide is just to indicate, hey, gosh, if you want, when we go to upload data and follow along, you can go to upload data. You can go to masterclass and then just go to select. All right. So there's lots of example data sets built in. You can drill in by the specific test, chi-square, okay, different plots, control charts, okay. We have several courses, one for healthcare, one for everyone else, okay. And you could have different courses and so forth. So just to know that when you load up your data, choose an example data set is how to access all of those. I will go through a data cleaning wizard. This was very interesting, and this makes me want to invite you to ask lots of questions. Went through a demonstration one time, and someone said, Jim, how do you help clean the data? I said, great question, because about 95% of most data analysis jobs are data cleaning processes. Once you have a clean data set, to go to conduct analyses and download a draft is 1 minute. Okay. I mean, I've done DMP projects in 14 seconds. But the data cleaning is an issue. So we have a data cleaning wizard built in, as well as a PDF to help navigate that process. So I will show you that. I'll get to the AI summary. It's very, this was kind of a one-off, but yet people love it. So I will show you the summary, and I think without further ado, we will get to it. Okay. So once you get logged in, so let me just make sure I'm refreshing here. So Melissa did put in james@intellectus360.com. If you wanted to share your project, I'm happy to do that. Let me just quickly, before I get into the tool itself, I'll just go step by step here. Hang on a second here. Most data sets from Qualtrics or SurveyMonkey or Question Pro, I hope they're still out there in the world, has kind of data like this. 3 rows of headers, okay? The variable name, maybe the question, levels of what's in there, and then kind of the data underneath. Sometimes these Likert type items have the labels still in there, and sometimes there's an open-ended question in there as well. So we need to manage that data, and the data cleaning wizard helps with that. So I'm going to go to upload data file, and I'm going to select that Rosenberg self-esteem data set over here. Let me see here. I thought we had it's under OneDrive, desktop. Okay. So Rosenberg. So once you select your file, just go to upload file. And then it throws you right into the data cleaning wizard. This kind of says what we're going to do, but I'm going to show you what we're going to do. If your data is clean and cool already, just go to exit, no problem. Okay. So for the moment, we're going to go to next. So what we really need in Intellectus is just the variable name and the actual data. So we don't need these other rows here. Okay. So I'm going to identify those rows and apply changes, which is deleting those rows. And now I just have the variable name and the data. Great start. Next, I'm going to, if I want to change any variable name, okay, I want to put gender in there. Most likely it's going to be the other way around, but okay. So you can change variable names. Go to next. Let me see if I have to, I may not have selected that. So let's just go back. So it didn't make that change. So let me make that change. So it gives you that. So now I need to click out of there and then apply changes. Okay, changes applied. Let's go to next. Here we use a little bit of programming to identify places where sometimes the levels of measurement or the responses are not consistent. Sometimes you have a male with a capital M and a male with a small m. We mean the same darn thing. So we want to start cleaning that up. So here, for this variable K2 pre, it identified that disagree. One has 3 E's, one has 2 E's. I can merge it. That's what it looks like before. That's what it looks like after. Apply that change. I'm going to do that again here. You can see the before and after the merge. I want to combine those things that have disagree and disagree. Okay, apply those changes. No more misspellings. Let's go to the next. Do I have Likert type? Yes, I do. So let's go ahead, and I actually have a 5-point agreement scale in my data. This is what it looks like before, but if I want to combine, okay, if I want to combine things, I need to turn those into numbers before I start averaging or summing these things. So identify my scale. I validate that I want to change these levels to these numbers, and I want to do that for all of these variables. Okay, great, and go to next. I want a subscale. Let's just imagine I'm doing kind of burnout. I'm like, well, let's just do EE pre-test, okay? And let's just say here's our pre-test scores, pre-test items. Sometimes questions are asked in reverse. It's called reverse coding. You want high numbers to mean lots of something. So if I'm measuring burnout and a 5 is high burnout, okay, sometimes I'll ask a question, again, that is worded in the reverse, and I need to flip that. You identify, and that's also in the scoring sheet, okay, so you don't have to make this up. You can see a question is asked in the opposite way. So just look at that scoring sheet. Highly recommend using validated instruments for lots of reasons. Identify the items that are in the subscale. 1. Reverse code any particular items or identify those and state what those scale is. I happen to be on a 1 to 5. Then you can sum or average these. For this one, I'm just going to average them. All right. Apply those changes. And I'm going to also add another scale at post-test. Okay. And you can identify those items. You can see that new variable is made up. Okay. And I will just sum these. You should do the same thing always, but for my analysis, I want to do something different. I have no more subscales. We asked to have an ID variable. Doesn't hurt. And now your data is relatively clean. All right. So I have some demographics. All right. And then I have some open-ended. And then I have my new two scales over here. Okay. All right. I also want to do two other things. One, age happens to be, I happen to know because I made the instrument around demographics, that it's really ordinal level variable. So I want to probably put those levels in there. Okay. 20 to 29. Okay. 30 to 39. 40 to 49. Okay. And 50 plus. All right. I want to put that in the same variable. With regard to all the data management and with regard to all of the plots and with regard to all the analyses, there are 3-minute videos sitting here as well as help pages. So if you're unsure about what that means, you can go to that video right then and there. So now I have an ID, gender is nominal, age is ordinal. Okay, the last thing I want to do is to, oftentimes there's a quantitative study, but has an open-ended response or two. With 20 items, I might just read them and bucket them, but we have a text classification that is going to use a little bit of AI and a little bit of other stats to kind of bucket those. So what we've done here is that those open-ended responses were bucketed into emotional intelligence skills, one, ethical influence techniques, servant leadership, vision, transformational leadership, and so forth. The advantage of this, aside from the ease of which it's done, by the way, you can validate that those responses seem like they get bucketed into those categories, okay? But now you can use those responses, okay, and interact with your quantitative data. For example, are there differences on emotional exhaustion, okay, or aspect of burnout by this type of leadership, okay? So that's really a cool thing to do. All right. Other things I want to do here. Just for exemplary purposes, I want to just edit my data a little bit. I also want to kind of put in some of this personal achievement, okay, and then I want to do depersonalization. So I want to put in some of these, just for the fun of it, some of the acronyms for MASH-like burnout. So let's imagine I've now managed the data the way that I want it. There are different plots to be had, very simple to plot things, okay? So profile plot, I want to look at emotional exhaustion by age group. Notice the icons, okay, with the carrier. So there's lots of help to be had here. Go slow and look at what's happening here. So there's help to be had. Videos, and you can just quickly see emotional exhaustion pre to post. Everyone's kind of getting burned out here, okay? Despite your age group. And then you can do lots of things like edit the labels, export in numerous ways, and so forth. So just a very quick way to visualize what your data is showing. Let's go to analyses. So there are 50 plus analyses to be had, all the descriptives, and I'll just do some of these. Let's just run descriptives. By the way, you'll notice the scroll over, okay? Again, it's there to help you. If you don't know what that is, you can scroll over and see what that test is. All right. So this is built to help you. So let's just run a few things. I'm going to run descriptives on age, gender, personal achievement, depersonalization, emotional intelligence, pre to post, and my leadership scores. You'll notice it takes all different levels of measurement. And now the tool knows to sort, okay, nominal and ordinal. It knows to sort them into frequency and percentages, and you can see that. For the scale variables, it knows to give means and standard deviations. If you don't know what a term means, slowly scroll over it. Okay. All right. Let's just run some correlations between things. Let's just imagine we're looking at these guys. Okay. So we can kind of see the correlation among, there's assumptions of, okay, of correlations. And then we kind of present the correlations in both kind of a triangle, which is more traditional, or in a list form. And you kind of see which things, personal achievement, emotional exhaustion, okay, are positively related. That's not typical, okay? So that's unusual, all right? So, and personal achievement and depersonalization using exhaustion scale, all right? Let's just go ahead and do a paired t-test. So it's on the t-test, lots of DMP projects, about 80% of DMP projects are paired t-tests. So let's just run one. So under paired t-test, we have to put in variable one. You'll notice it has to be scale. And let's just look at emotional exhaustion pretest. Post is emotional exhaustion post. And that's it, okay? So in all of the tests, the assumptions are built in. Here, we can assess normality with a Shapiro-Wilk test. The tool runs the test, and since that's significant, it interprets that test. Okay? It also says, the results were significant or not. It has an APA table. What's that D mean? Talking about effect sizes, okay? And you can see that, hey gosh, EE pre and post were different from zero. Essentially what we mean is that these things are reliably different, right? At post test compared to pre and a plot. Also, when typical tests, lots of tests, have assumptions that are violated, like in this case, the non-parametric test is also run. Happens to be the Wilcoxon, looks at pre to post test without the assumption. Here we can also see it's significant and a plot with that. And there's other tests to be had, like ANOVAs, a lot of regressions and so forth, chi-squares, very common tests. It does advanced analyses like structural equation modeling and path analysis with the same ease, other advanced analyses, okay? So, and once you have these results the way you want them, okay, all right, you can download all of that, okay? And, okay, and you can see kind of the results, all of our APA tables. Here's our correlation with assumptions. It's not a huge sample size, so it's kind of difficult to discern that. The results of the correlation, hey gosh, there was significant negative correlation between these two guys, okay? The effect size and so forth, the tables, my paired t-test. We also include APA style references, a table, a glossary of all of the terms and symbols that are used within those tests. So we have a curated glossary and then some raw output. Now let's have some other fun. And we're going to try to see, hey gosh, we wanted to see what the relationship was between some of these burnout scales, okay? And we did a paired t-test and a Wilcoxon. For the fun of it, the insights document it was intended to be just a summary of those results. But as happenstance, when luck happens sometimes, it started going into the AI. And I said, well, wait, why don't we ask for other kinds of discussion section things, okay? And see what comes out. So the caveats with AI summary. By the way, everyone who sees this loves this, hands down loves. Um, it will save you 10 hours of drafting a discussion section if you have a very clear or relatively clear variable names, like I have here, PADPEE. Hopefully it gets it, may not. Okay. And the other part is you have to vet this. Okay. It's an idea generator. It is the place for you to be critically thinking about, does that practical implication make sense? Does that theoretical implication make sense? Does that limitation make sense? Does that summary make sense? So with all AI, be it in references to double check, but also that output. It's your starting place. It's not your ending place. It's your starting place to think in a scholarly fashion. Okay, what can I add uniquely to this? All right, it's a jumping off board. The diving board only helps you get some lift. It's your job to put the energy into it to get that lift. Okay, so this is your diving board, but not where you just kind of fall off the diving board into the water. Okay, it's a place to get additional lift and to think about things. These things take a minute. We have a lit review tool coming out. Those things can take 20 minutes, an hour, okay? It takes a long time to go through a process of 50 articles, 100 articles, and there's many, many, many steps along the way, okay, to kind of get us there to a lit review draft. But as in this discussion section draft, or the lit review draft, or the qualitative AI draft, it takes a few minutes here. All right. Uh, my experience has been that is well worth the wait to hang in there for it. All right. While I'm doing that, let me just answer some of these questions. Can a tool identify outliers? So yes, the tool can. Okay, so before I get there, let's just see how the AI did. Okay, let's just download this sucker. Well, so it did identify. Let me just download this, and then we'll get to the questions. I got to move 9 windows out of the way. Okay. Okay. So in my mock data, okay. So after you run your and conduct your results in Intellectus, this is what you can get. A summary of the key findings. It identified personal accomplishment, depersonalization, and EE. Okay. Okay. So it did not identify correctly. Okay. EE it thought was employee engagement. Obviously, you need to change that. And you can change that by spelling out an emotional exhaustion. So it did not pick up that those were two aspects, and that EE was okay. So it's citizen. So I would rerun this, okay, with emotional exhaustion spelled out, okay, and it wouldn't hurt to spell out the personalization and personal accomplishment. But just to give you a flavor, there's an interpretation, okay, of a few of these things, theoretical implications of these things, practical implications of these things with references, most of which are perfect. Okay. My experience has been 85 to 95% are perfect. And then conclusion and then references. So I guess the key here is, hey, Jim, let's make sure that that EE is spelt out, okay? It did get those, all right? All right. So let's just get to some of these questions over here. So Dr. Berman, let me see here. Does it identify outliers? So the short answer is yes. So both here and here, let's just get a few of those out. So if I have a few missing, so when you want to create a composite score, you don't want to, especially with small samples, you don't want to kind of lose this individual, okay? Because they missed one item. Now, if they're systematically missing items, okay, I don't want to impute. But under the data management, under imputation, it can identify very quickly who has missing data, and I can make a new variable or replace in there very quickly to impute them. Now, it didn't do a great job, so it's looking for the highest frequency here and imputing that for nominal, and it's taking the mean plus or minus a standard deviation to impute here. So it does do imputation. My kind of rule of thumb is I would run it with or without imputation and see if those findings differ, okay? Does it make a difference if I don't use that person, okay? So that's how I would kind of handle that. Can you run an ANOVA 3 time periods? So good question there. So the 3 time periods, so there's different kinds of ANOVAs, okay? All right. So there's a ANOVA that looks at some one outcome variable by different groups, or as you're kind of alluding to, some outcome variable that's measured at 3 times. So if we just have, let's just say, let's just name this EE post, EE a follow-up, okay? Okay, follow-up, okay? All right. So yeah, so we can, that's an ANOVA procedure, okay? And repeated measures ANOVA in particular, okay? 2 to 5 variables we allow for, and I have EE pre, EE post, and EE follow-up, okay? By the way, the order in which you put them in matters, okay? So so how I selected those was specific. So all you do is identify that test, put in the variables, and hit calculate. Okay. And here the assumptions are built in. You can scroll over the assumptions of normality, sphericity, outliers, and then the results. We also have corrections built in. And here you can see, yes, there are differences among the 3 emotional exhaustion. Okay, that's what it kind of looks like. All right, and you can kind of guess what's happening here, right? All right, so it goes up, all right, from pre to post and goes back down to follow up. And you can see those means here. The post hoc tests are already built in, all right? So you don't have to ask for these things. And you can see that pre to post differs, pre to follow-up differs, and post to follow-up differs. So all of those from here to here, here to here, and here to here are all statistically different. Each time differs from each other time, all right? Now, when assumptions are violated, we also have the Friedman, as I showed you earlier with the paired t-test Wilcoxon, the ANOVA, and the Friedman. Here you can also get another slice at looking at things. You can see the plots without having to ask for it, and then those post hocs as well. So the shorter answer is yes, and everyone's going to get a recording of this, so so we can so you can go slowly through this. So do we keep a log of the changes made in data cleaning? So the short answer is no. The way to do that changes would be when you have these things, okay? All right. when you have these changes, okay? So when you impute, the way to keep changes are that when I go to impute here and here, I would append a new variable. So now I have the old variables, okay, with my missing data. And I have not a log like a syntax log, I actually have a physical variable log, which has the underscore imputed after that. All righty, let's keep going here. Okay, so let's see if there are any projects to be had here and kind of, Melissa, any projects at all to be vetted
If
here?
if you've shared your project, please raise your hand and we'll unmute you and we'll get into it. Also, please feel free to keep asking questions in the Q&A. You have one sitting in there right now.
Oh, there's some in there now? I'm sorry. Okay, what's the difference between Intellectus 360 and normal SPSS? Oh, let me count the ways. Um, I mean, not to beat up SPSS too much. I think it's clunky. They could do what we do. They didn't. Um, let's start with let's start with lots of stuff. I don't even know where to start. Um, let's start with scrollovers to help identify what's there. Let's help with other scrollovers to help this help in context of where you are. Let's talk about having the results in plain English prose. Let's talk about APA style tables and figures. You don't have to mess with that. Let's talk about, with good variable names, some discussion of the results in context. I mean, I think there's too many things to go over here. The glossary. So I just think, I mean, look, we love SPSS. We were all raised on SPSS. I've been using SPSS for more than half my life. So we all love SPSS, but the use case is different, okay? The use case for SPSS is really if you want a syntax driven, which is command driven, and some cases are for that, but it covers the wide swath of folks, okay? I would say that this is really built for education in particular, or those without expertise. I mean, I think there's lots of magnet hospitals out there that are doing research and other folks that are not statisticians or nurse scientists that need to be able to conduct analyses by themselves in a pretty quick fashion and get some understanding of what's going on here. We have, Columbia University in New York, they don't want to wait for the statisticians for 2 months and they have piles of data sitting on their desk. They want to bang through it pretty quickly. So, we find that I think we really cover the use case of novices and people that have heavy workloads. Okay. I think those two parts of the U are there. I think for the folks that are PhDs that have several stats classes, you're probably going to learn R, and you have the time to do that. So, you know, um, I don't want to say we're all things for all people. I'm sure there are other kinds of regressions aside from the 5 typical ones that we have. So I think they're going to have perhaps greater breadth on the edges. Okay, but if you asked 10,000 people what kind of regressions, they're doing one of those 5 regressions. Okay. Um, I'd appreciate if you could record Jim's workshop on qualitative. Um, so sure. So let me let me let me say a couple of other things here about the quant. So just to know that in addition to the quantitative course, there's also a whole curriculum to be had. Okay. Um, these are competency-based courses that can go behind for all you faculty and deans. Go behind your LMS. Grades go to grade books. You can select the courses. Some people have 7-week courses, 12-week courses, 16-week courses. You can curate how many lessons you want to have. We'll put that behind your LMS. And really, it's non-mathy. Okay, so again, for lots of masters, bachelors, BSNs, and lots of doctorate or professional doctorates, you don't have the time to get into the math. So, but it does show you, what the assumptions are, why they're important to have, and how to actually execute things in an efficient manner. All right, and give you that grounding. I will say too that we do have, since somebody mentioned it, we do have a qualitative course. It's using AI to excerpt, collapse excerpts, code, name the code, thematize, and we will, when we send out the recording, we'll be sending out both the qualitative webinar coming out. We have a DMP webinar that we do monthly. We have a methodology webinar, and we'll probably be doing a lit review mini class in 2 weeks or so. So that's we're at that cusp. Other questions here. Okay. So wait, so we do have an expert in here. SPSS is a 1956 Intellectus 2025 Tesla. Well, SPSS is a 1956 Volkswagen Intellectus 2025 Tesla. I accept that. Okay. The cost of these things, obviously R is free. Okay, so fair enough comment there, Donna. Intellectus off the shelf is $59 for a month. So if you're working on a project, is it worth it? Really the question is your time. I mean, if you know R, okay, and you can, that now format that output, interpret that output, and format that output, and do that in a quick fashion, terrific. But for 59 bucks, I mean, as I said, we can do lots of projects. Data cleaning is an issue, it's time consuming, but we can do many projects in minutes. And my experience with grad students in particular is it's weeks. Okay. All right. It's weeks in terms of real time, and it's anxiety in terms of emotional stress. All right. People do not like and wake up and say, I can't wait to get this done. Okay. I'm one of those weirdos that really like the data. Okay. So I'm happy to be involved with it. But most people don't wake up like that and say, I can't wait to teach this. All right. So, it's your call. I would be curious about the experiment. I mean, Melissa, I'm happy to get Donna and let her do the experiment. We've done things we've compared SPSS to Intellectus back in the old days, and did the conducting, the writing, okay, and the editing. It was like 30 seconds to 9 minutes. I mean, it's some 18-fold difference. So, other questions? Okay, so if you run an inappropriate test or less than optimal test in your data, can the software suggest a better test? Well, that's in fact what happened here. All right, so I just ran that repeated measures ANOVA. Okay, one of the assumptions were violated, and it did automatically run that Friedman test. Okay, so that's a built-in. Okay, so yes. I mean, I should share that under repeated measures. I didn't get into this, but I will now. All of these tests have different options. We have lots of presets here, but you can enable or disable those non-parametrics, and you can change different things to be had here. So, but we set that default, Michelle, to run that non-parametric. At least you have that information there, okay? And it's, what are we trying to get to here? What's our end game? Our end game is we want to know, in this particular example, is there differences in, emotional exhaustion, okay, over time, right? And we're getting a picture from the ANOVA, we're getting a picture from the Friedman, and we have a sense that, guess what? There are differences, okay? There are reliable differences over this. So the short answer is yes, and mine's just a little bit longer. Okay, when assumptions fail, it automatically runs alternate. Okay, so we're really going on this. So, or just give a suggestion. No, it actually ran it. So both on the paired t-test, it literally ran the Wilcoxon without asking. And for the ANOVA, okay, it literally ran the Friedman right after. This is really helpful too. I mean, I think it's helpful to give folks that don't have much experience some options here. So, and again, to draw a picture of what's happening here. All right. Can a group like a university or grad school purchase a license for intellectus? So yes. So individuals can purchase this. Okay, $59, particularly if you're working on it, a project. Just bang it out. Institutions. I mean, I'll let Melissa and really Ashley answer that question. So the heavily discounted, you know, whatever, 80% off, 85% off, some huge number there, percentage. So yes. And then the courses could be in there, and there are some, we will do some bundling, okay? So if you want courses and tools and have your folks kind of get AI savvy, okay, and be thoughtful, okay, and be thoughtful about the findings, okay. So we're happy to do that packaging, and we suspect that's going to be happening quite a bit. Other questions? Let me just do a few other things here. I mentioned earlier, folks get stuck with what test to run. We do have a decision tree here that says, and you can play around with this, you can't break it, but with simple kinds of things, I want to predict an outcome that happens to be scale. I'm doing a linear regression, and I jump right into it. So you can go back and kind of play around with this, and it doesn't drive you to time series or SEM, but it drives you to lots of analyses. So with some simple user-friendly questions, you can kind of get there. Once you know you're doing a particular test, okay, like a t-test, all right, you can have a downloadable data analysis plan, okay, with references that you can now edit, okay. You can also, going to GPower to figure out the sample size, you can get stuck there for a little bit. Here you can really just select the test, and for different effect sizes, okay, you can see what the sample size is. It's reference, downloadable, and editable, and kind of move you through some of that a priori stuff, okay? So, what test, in your methodology, you're gonna need a data plan. What test? What are the assumptions? What's the sample size? Okay. These three functions can help you there. All right. Let me see if we have other questions here. Okay. All right. Ron, good seeing you, hearing from you. Uploading files. Does it take? So yes. So you can upload different data files, CSV, Excel, SPSS. So different files, or you can just enter in manually or paste in, okay, a flat file like an Excel file right into that. Okay. All righty. Okay, so let's go to just to share with you as we wrap up here. All right, so let me get this moved out of the way. Slideshow from. So we're kind of answering questions. I want to at least put out some contact information. Samantha is readily able to help students, projects, methodologies, questions. You can contact Samantha, Ashley at ashleyintellectus360.com, Samantha at intellectusstatistics.com, Melissa, our main phone number, different websites. We'll have a lit review on that soon enough, but Statistics Solutions has a lot of information to be had there. If you want to schedule, you can use that QR code. All right. And then it will be triaged to the right individual, be it faculty or student. Okay. And I think if there's no more questions, I think we will wrap up here. Melissa, anything on your side?
I think that's it. We'll send the recording to everyone. We'll send links to our upcoming webinars and then contact information for the appropriate person based on if you're a student or faculty.
Perfect. With that being said, I want to wish everyone a very happy and safe 4th of July. It's it's nice to have a little weekend break. So I wish everyone the best, and we'll see you next time.